Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, I do want to speak about Joan Laporta's second presidency, right? Because this is not the first time, this is the second time, and Joan Laporta's second time is between the years of 2021 all the way up until today, with one season left in his second presidency. And now knowing that FC Barcelona have completed their season, we're done. We have won 3 total trophies. I want to give my opinion on Joan Laporta's era at Barcelona, because I do think that it is now safe to talk about this, right? I do have some criticisms that might go up against Joan Laporta, but all in all, right, just to like really summarize what I'm going to be saying through this video is Joan Laporta did one hell of a job. We went up and down through these past 4 to 5 years. We questioned certain things that Joan Laporta did, but all in all, from a macro standpoint, within these past 5 years, we have gone all the way up, and that is because Joan Laporta has made the correct decisions in terms of who should be our sporting director, who should be our next coach, who is going to be the players that we want to sign, what's financially feasible, what type of debt should we take out, right? There were so many things that Joan Laporta had to figure out when he first came in here. And I think that, yes, he made some mistakes like every freaking president, every owner does in any company, like ever in history. But in the end, we went up every season, right? We went up every season. We improved sportingly, economically, and you just have to clap it up, right? I'm going to have to clap it up for Joan Laporta. Because once again, we started with a Barcelona team when Joan Laporta first came. This Barcelona team was a mess financially and sportingly, and now we sit here today with better finances, not to the point where we can sign whoever we want, but better finances, and most importantly, a better squad, and a squad that we can look up to and say, this is a team that can dominate the world of football for the next 8 to 9 years minimum, right? And I want to talk about that journey because, first of all, when Joan Laporta first came in, okay, this is a guy that wanted to be the president of FC Barcelona, knowing that this team and this squad and this club was in massive debt, that this team could not sign anybody. He knew that, and he had to go up against Victor Font back in March 2021 after Bartomeu left his presidency very early. And one of the things that Joan Laporta was using in order for him to become the president of Barcelona, saying, I will secure the future of Lionel Messi. And as we all know, a couple of months later, Messi could not be registered into the squad for not that long. And Joan Laporta just couldn't do anything whatsoever about it. And I do think that in a way, yes, he was using that phrase as a way for him to become the president and trying to use the Messi name so he can hold power. I do think that he was lying in a way, but I also think that he did try when he came to Barcelona and he saw the accounts and he's like, okay, let's try and do something. Let's try and see how we can afford Messi under this wage bill, but only to find out that if they retained Messi, they would not be able to improve their squad or start their sporting project from there in 2021. He's like, okay, I know that Barcelona's accounts are bad, but they can't be that bad, right? Once I look at the accounts and I'm the president of FC Barcelona, maybe I can have a final decision. I believe that is what happened. When Laporta finally became the president, he saw the accounts. He tried to see what was financially making sense, what was feasible, and he said, "Oh my God, bro! Like we can't do anything. This is worse than I thought." Bartomeu made a mess. Like the amount of debt that we have to owe because of the COVID thing, because of how much we spent for Antoine Griezmann, for Dembélé, for Coutinho, for Frenkie de Jong. We were outspending more than how much we actually earned. We are in massive debt. We can't do anything. And this whole thing about Messi, it just seems like it is impossible. And so look, he started off strong, right? He knew that he had to try to figure out the 1 billion euro in debt that Barcelona was carrying. So he secured a 600 million Goldman Sachs loan to push back these immediate charges that he owed. And Ronald Koeman's side at Barcelona back in that time in 2021, we finished in 3rd place with only 79 points. It's really not that good. That was underperforming, underwhelming. It was sad. We lifted the Copa del Rey, but we crashed out of the Champions League as well in the round of 16 versus PSG. And it was just an ugly look for FC Barcelona, because we all know that this this is a Barcelona team that's supposed to strive for perfection in football, to be winning multiple titles like what we're doing today, right? We have 3 titles and we won it in a very amazing way. But this time, back in 2021, it was so ugly. Horrible football. We couldn't sign anybody. And so once we got into the summer of 2021, even with this loan that we got of 600 million euros, Messi had to leave and he went to PSG for free. And that, I believe, was one of the start of a lot of people pushing back and saying that Joan Laporta is a liar, that Joan Laporta should have never become the president of Barcelona, that we're only going to go down from here. Because if you lose a player like Messi, obviously you're going to be saying, oh, we're only going to go down from here. We're not going to get better from here. We lost the best player in history. And now he's at PSG. What is Joan Laporta doing? And so I remember that story, and it was really bad. And I thought to myself, and I'm like, okay, it hurts. It hurts to see Messi leave, but we have to put Barcelona first, because if it means, like if Messi stays, and that means that Barcelona cannot sign anybody, and we're gonna do poorly on the wage bill, and we can't sign anybody for the next two or three seasons, then we're gonna have to sacrifice this, right? We're gonna have to sacrifice Messi, let him go in order for Barcelona to persevere and get better. So we had to trust that. I thought that to myself. A lot of people did not see that. A lot of people saw what people were doing was crying and they were complaining. They were saying, oh my God, Messi's leaving. I'm like, no, let's think about this. If Messi leaves, that means more space is going to open in the future. That means that we may be able to spend some money on players that can reinforce certain positions, because we were not doing good. Barcelona were not doing good. The beginning of Barcelona's downfall happened in 2019 in May when we faced Liverpool, right? When we lost, I believe it was 4-3, right? Liverpool came back with 4 total goals at Anfield. That was the start of a downfall. And I say that because, this was a Barcelona team back in 2019 where I think that they solely relied on the brilliance of Suarez and Messi and nothing more. They knew how to retain the ball. You're right. We did well in the league. We also did well in the Copa del Rey sometimes, in the Spanish Super Cup. We were okay. But all in all, like, to really sum up that 2019 team, it was just the brilliance of Jordi Alba, Messi, and Suarez and Busquets. That's it. It was the 4 amigos. Nothing more. There was not, you take down one of those players, if they're injured, that Barcelona team is finished. And I think that slowly but surely, a lot of teams started to catch on to what that Barcelona team was, and they said, okay, if we just stop Messi and Suarez and we just pressure them, we can win this game. That's all it takes. This team is nothing more but those 4 names: Busquets, Alba, Suarez, and Messi. It's really not that hard. And so once teams started to catch on, they started to crumble that team, and that led towards the 2019-2020 team, where they couldn't do anything as well. Right, that team was just a disaster, and mentally they were just crumbling. It was finished. That Guardiola team that was built back in 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12, that carried on to 2015 and all the way until 2019. It was beginning to finish, and it was a calling. It was a huge calling for any president to come into next and say, okay, we have to start a brand new journey, because these players that was nurtured but by Pep Guardiola and Luis Enrique, they're gonna have to leave. We have to restart something. We have to restart this whole club. And Joan Laporta did that, right? And we can safely say that by saying, Laporta put the final nail in the coffin in terms of that era of the team between 2009, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and so forth. And he said, Messi, you have to go, right? You're gonna have to go, and we're gonna restart this whole new project. We're gonna restart what we did back in 2008 and 2007. And it's going to hurt in the short term, but it's going to pay dividends in the long term. So we go into the summer of 2021. Still, Barcelona cannot afford the best players in the world, right? We let go of Messi, but we were barely making it. And we brought in players like Memphis Depay, Eric Garcia, Sergio Aguero for free, Luke de Jong, who came on loan, Ferran Torres also came in for, I think it was around 31 million euros. With 44 million euros. Aubameyang also came in the winter. And I think that with this team, I'm not going to lie, they kind of cooked. They really did. I actually went to go see this team as well. I saw Aubameyang, I saw Ferran Torres. Dembele was also in that team at that time. We saw Luke de Jong. They kind of cooked. It was like a little special moment that Barcelona had through the 2021-2022 season. Koeman was still the coach of FC Barcelona, but he later got sacked. Mid-season, and Xavi Hernandez came in and he said, okay, bring me Ferran, I need Aubameyang, Eric Garcia was already there, Sergio Aguero was already there, and Memphis was also there because Ronald Koeman chose these players. And I mean, honestly, like, who else was he going to choose? Because we had no other choices. And so players like Messi, Griezmann, Emerson, Moriba, Junior Firpo, they all left. And it was a scary time, I would say, but a very transitional time in FC Barcelona's period under Joan Laporta, because we had to function under a very cheap squad and also understand that we need to have a coach that can pick out talents from the Masia to really lay this foundation and the groundwork to build on top of. And that's why Xavi Hernandez came in November 2021 and he said, okay, we are screwed. You know what I'm saying? Like, Xavi came in exactly how Joan Laporta came in. He's like, okay, we're screwed, right? And Xavi saw everything from a sporting perspective instead of like financially, compared to, like, what Joan Laporta saw in the accounts. And Xavi said, okay, this team is screwed. We are in 9th place in La Liga. These players are not like the best players in the world. We don't have any youngsters besides Balde and Gavi. What can we do here? And so at that time, at that period of Joan Laporta's era and second presidency, it was monumental and important to hire somebody like Xavi Hernandez, because we did not have a foundation. We did not have anybody. There was nobody to build on top of. There was no Kubarsi, there was no Yamal, there was no Hector Fort, there was no nothing, zero. Gavi was not at his all-time best. Valdez still needed to be maximized. There was no youngsters at that time. And so Xavi said, okay, we're going to have to play in the very best way possible. Okay, Aguero, you can play, but he only played for like 2 or 3 months. Luke de Jong, you're going to be one of my main players to score goals. Aubameyang, okay, it's fine. Eric Garcia, you're going to have your moments here and there. And Eric Garcia had a great 2021-2022 season, by the way. Memphis, he was okay as well under Xavi Hernandez. But Xavi Hernandez did what he could. He carried Barcelona from 9th place in La Liga in the middle of the season to 2nd place in La Liga with a total of 73 points, right? But they went trophyless. They did not win anything that season. It was embarrassing. And, Joan Laporta, yet again, he saw this and he was like, okay, we are taking care of the wage bill. I never wanted Ronald Koeman because when I came in, Ronald Koeman was already the coach of FC Barcelona. Okay, fine. We took him out. We took out Lionel Messi because he was like exploding our wage bill, and we could not sign anybody because of Messi's wages. We took care of that. We took him out. Now Xavi Hernandez is here. He's laying the groundwork, but I have to support Xavi Hernandez. I cannot just leave him by himself and just say, like, you have to work with whatever we can afford and we can't do anything else. So we went into the summer of 2022, which is the start of the 2022-2023 season. And Joan Laporta is like, okay, I have a big job to make here. I have to do something. I have to back Xavi in some capacity. So he knew that he had to back Xavi Hernandez. And we went into the summer and we had this little phase in the summer, which was kind of fun because I remember this like if it was yesterday. And we call this the Palancas summer. Palancas, meaning financial levers. Right, and also the Spotify deal. It was a huge summer for Joan Laporta and Xavi Hernandez, and even until today, that summer of 2022 was so important that it affects us today, bro. We can safely say that. Now, why was this such a big deal? Because we did sell 25% of La Liga media straight cash for 25 years to 6th Street, right? That was like at a value of 517 million, a lot of money. Then we have the Spotify partnership that we locked down with under Joan Laporta, which meant that we had to put Spotify in front of our shirts during training sessions. The stadium was going to be named Spotify Camp Nou as well, and it's currently being built and it's like 98% done. If you guys go look at the pictures of the Spotify Camp Nou, we're going to be opening next season, right? But back in the summer of 2022, that was the whole deal. And that also paid us 280 million euros for the next 4 years, which is 70 million euros per year, right? And then we do have the Barça Studios sale. 49% of Barça Studios sold to Socios and Orpheus Media for 100 million euros. And so because of all of these assets that we sold at that time impacted us so much, Joan Laporta said, okay, we have cash. We can't sign, obviously, like Mbappe and Haaland and players like that, but we can definitely sign B+ players. players who are really good, for sure. Like an 8 out of 10 type of player or 9 out of 10 type of player. And so we brought in Lewandowski, we brought in Raphinha, we brought in Jules Koundé, we brought in Andreas Christensen and Kessié. So Lewandowski for 45, Raphinha for 58 million, Koundé for 50 million euros, Christensen for free, and Kessié for free. That was huge because these 5 players impacted us so much, and even up until today, Kessié scored the winner against Real Madrid that allowed us to win La Liga in that exact same season. Christensen, even up until today, he's still with us today, right? And Christensen also played a huge role in the 2023-2024 season by playing in the double pivot position next to Frankie de Jong when we had no central defensive midfielder. We'll get to that in a few minutes. Jules Koundé, bro. Of course, like Jules Koundé, the best right back in the world today, right? One of our best, if not the best defender at FC Barcelona. Raphinha. You guys know who Raphinha is today, a Ballon d'Oro contender, and we spent 58 million euros on the player. And then we have Lewandowski, who is leading in the Pichichi race over Kylian Mbappe and won us La Liga, that league title in that exact same season. So this was a huge summer for Joan Laporta and Xavi Hernandez. We, like, at that time, we're like, okay, it's going to bring us results for this season, but we'll see. Maybe we can sign a better left winger who's much more of a dribbler compared to Raphinha. Okay, Jules Koundé, center back. Okay, great. Christensen, okay, good. Great for quality depth. Same thing for Kessié. Okay, Lewandowski can give us like a good 1 to 2 years. Okay, great. But we never thought that it was going to take us all the way into 2025 and say Raphinha Ballon d'Oro, Lewandowski Pichichi, Jules Koundé the best defender in the world. Christensen, he became very important for the past 2 or 3 years in terms of depth. Kessié won us La Liga. It was huge. And we spent like around 150 million euros in total in that summer. And that already was a win because this summer itself already told me that whatever Bartomeu did back in his years is nothing compared to what Joan Laporta did in this summer, right? Because Bartomeu spent 160 million euros. No, it was like 130 million euros to 140 million euros on Coutinho alone. 135 to 140 million euros on Coutinho alone. That money was spent so well in the summer of 2022 under Joan Laporta. With Lewandowski, Raphinha, Koundé, and Christensen and Kessié. And Coutinho did nothing for us, nothing. So you saw how you see how Joan Laporta spent the 150 million euros way better compared to how Bartomeu did. It's a completely different way of viewing football. Bartomeu said, okay, I have 150, 140 million euros. You're around that price range. Obviously, like it probably costs just like 10 million euros less to afford somebody like Coutinho. But like you understand what I mean. Joan Laporta spent it much more wiser. And Bartomeu said, okay, I have 140 million euros. Let's look and see if we can buy one of the best players in the world. Like who's open right now. That's a completely different take. And Joan Laporta's like, no. We're going to analyze the market wisely. We're going to use this 140 million euros in a smart way. And we're going to pour it into Koundé, Raphinha, Lewandowski, and Christensen and Kessié come in for free. Brilliant. And we sold Coutinho in that exact same summer for 20 million euros, which is a huge loss. We sold Aubameyang for 12 million euros. We let go of Mingueza and Lenglet on loan and Umtiti on loan. So that was it, right? We finished off that season as La Liga champions, 88 points, considered as one of the best defense. No, it was the best defense in the world of football, only allowing 20 goals in La Liga. We won the Spanish Super Cup against Real Madrid. It was a 3-1 win. It was one of the best displays that Barcelona have had in recent years. We destroyed Real Madrid in that year and in that tournament. And then we unfortunately got knocked out of the Champions League in the group stages, unfortunately. And then we went to the Europa League against Manchester United. A lot of people like to make fun of that, but I don't think so. I think that when you are in a group stage with Inter Milan and Bayern Munich, two teams who have been already carrying their sporting project over the past like 6 to 7 years deep, and you look at a team like FC Barcelona, we competed well against Inter Milan and Bayern in that year, and they knew that. Inter and Bayern, they respected us a lot. Even Kimmich, I remember he was saying that this Barcelona team is something else. Like they're gonna go places, and so a lot of people like to make fun of that. They like to say that Xavi Hernandez was nothing, but in the end, it was a a good move coming from Joan Laporta to back Xavi, and Xavi did the best that he could, and we won 2 trophies in that season. It was amazing. But then came the summer of 2023, which is the 2023-2024 season. And I believe that this was Xavi's fallout, and it was a roller coaster. And I say that because of 2 reasons, okay? It's because of 2 reasons. We went into this season and we said, okay, all we have to do is just sign maybe 1 to 2 players, just continue to nurture this team because we're starting to see a lot of youngsters rise into this group. But the worst thing that happened to us in the summer of 2023 was the fact that Javier Tebas said, you guys cannot sign anybody, nobody. You guys, like, if anything, you guys are going to be losing players. And so what happened to Xavi Hernandez's project midway after having such a successful season was we lost Dembélé and Busquets. Those are the 2 reasons. We lost a CDM and Dembélé, one of the best wingers in the world, after Dembélé had one of the best seasons in his Barcelona career. And we lost him that following season in the summer of 2023. And Xavi Hernandez wanted Dembélé to stay. And he said, look, I can make you into the best player in your position, the best winger in the world. And he did. But he lost Dembélé. And we lost Sergio Busquets. Now, keep in mind, this paid dividends later down the road, right? Now, I'll talk about that in just a few minutes. Because, you know, obviously Yamal came in later. Bernal and Casado also came in later. We'll talk about that in just a few minutes. But at that time, it did hurt Xavi Hernandez's project. And the only thing that we could have done in that summer was sign 2 loanees, which was Cancelo and João Félix. And then they said, we'll give you Oriol Romeu. Are you freaking kidding me? That is the only thing that we could have done in that summer. Oriol Romeu to replace Sergio Busquets and 2 loanees. That is trash, bro. That is trash. And we had to let go of Sergio Busquets, and we had to let go of Dembélé because we could not give what Dembélé wanted. We could not. His wages were skyrocketing. Busquets also had to leave because we had to reduce our wage bill. It was disgusting. I think Alba already left by this point because Balde just, Alba been leaving. He left like maybe, I think like a year ago. But it was a trophyless dip. And we ended up in second place in La Liga with 85 points, even though, in my opinion, it's not that bad. Finishing with 85 points in the second full season, knowing that they took you, Sergio Busquets, and took away from you Dembélé. 85 points is really good because the season before that one, where we won 2 trophies, we ended up with 88 points, which is only 3 points less. 3 points less, and we lost Sergio Busquets and Dembélé. And you did that to Xavi Hernandez and Joan Laporta, Mr. Javier Tebas. So we had a shaky defense. We could not organize anything. Every time a player got injured, it was like the end of the world because we had no quality depth whatsoever. Our medical team was like on life alert, right? Because like they couldn't do anything. They said, "Oh my God, bro!" Like, not Dembélé. Like they saw, I don't know, Lewandowski injured. We're like, oh my God, he's gonna come back in 3 months. Pedri injured. He's gonna come back in 3 months. Frankie injured. He's gonna come back in 3 months. Balde injured. He's finished. It was bad, and like there were so many things that were going wrong, and we went. You know, it was so bad that Xavi Hernandez even said that I'm gonna be quitting like after this season because you, the media, do not let me do anything. I'm only getting trashed by like by everything that I do, and nothing's good for you guys, and you guys are just pressuring me to move out. So you know what? I'm leaving. F you guys. He didn't say that, but I would have said that if the media treated me like that after everything that I have did. I could have just gone to Man City. I could have just gone to Manchester United or Arsenal or go to the Premier League and spend however much money I wanted without this type of media going up against me and unwilling to spend. I mean, like, you know, Xavi did not say that, but I would have said that because I know that Xavi could have done that. Xavi could have just said I could go to City, United, I could go PSG, I could go wherever. But he chose to go to a team like FC Barcelona where it was trash. You could not afford nothing. It was disgusting football. The players were trash. Whatever. It was bad. And so that is why Xavi just said, you know, I'm leaving after this season and nothing more. And everybody was like, no, Xavi, we're sorry, and you have to stay for one more season. You have done a tremendous job. This, to me, this is where I'm gonna put my input on Joan Laporta. When all of this was going on with Xavi Hernandez, and the media was saying like, you're not doing good. Look at us. We're barely making it to first place in La Liga. We got out of the quarterfinals of the Champions League, and we have a shaky defense, and we can't hold on to a win because every time they score a goal on us, we can't even come back to 1. And when all of that was going on, I wanted Joan Laporta to go out to the media and say, why are you guys blaming Xavi Hernandez? Why are you guys saying such things about Xavi? What was going on here? If you guys want to have some complaints, come to me, because I want you guys to know that Xavi Hernandez cannot display his full project and whatever spot he wanted, because we have certain finances that we have to follow. Javier Tebas has us under certain rules, but but Joan Laporta did not say a single thing and did not do anything to defend Xavi Hernandez during this time. If anything, he was hiding. And I had some conspiracies, and I was like really thinking, like, does Joan Laporta want this? Does Joan Laporta want Xavi Hernandez to get painted this bad picture so Joan Laporta can come out and just say, okay, yeah, the world agrees that Xavi Hernandez has fallen out, so let me take him out and I'm going to sign a new coach just so he can look good. It was one of my conspiracies, because you as a president are supposed to defend somebody like Xavi Hernandez, especially when he has to speak about finances. That is not his job. It's not his job to speak about what Barcelona can or cannot afford. Like, literally on May 15th, Xavi Hernandez said, Barcelona can't catch up to Real Madrid in the market because we have no money. That is supposed to be conversations for Joan Laporta. So that is probably, to me, one of the things that Laporta did not do well during his time at Barcelona. And it was just a dark period. No trophies. Everybody was blaming Xavi. But in the end, I think that we came out that season and we said, okay, we tripped over some things. We did not win any trophies, but we need a change. And we saw some youngsters coming in. We still have players like Vitor Roque, Lewandowski, and Jules Koundé, who needed to be maximized. And I believe that Joan Laporta later came in and he said, okay, we have to take the next step. And I believe that this one was very important, because we have to remember that during this time in May 2024, we were at a time where we're like, okay, Xavi Hernandez is going to leave. Who is going to be our next coach? And I don't know if you guys remember, but we had so many conversations about De Zerbi should be the next one to come in after Xavi. No, it should be Tuchel. No, it should be Mikel from Girona, because everybody was saying, I don't know if it's Mikel or Michel, but I'm going to just say Mikel. Mikel from Girona. Because at that time, everybody was like, bro, if Mikel can do this with Girona, because Girona had a great 2024 year, right? They're like, if Mikel can do this with Girona, can you imagine what Mikel can do with FC Barcelona? So everybody wanted Mikel from Girona, because Girona trashed Barcelona twice in that season. And so there were so many conversations, bro. Like, everybody was like we had it to make, it was important for us to make the correct decision, because what we needed at that time was for a coach to come in and just put steroids on these players, literally, right? To take this team to the next level. And we're like, okay, Mikel, De Zerbi, Tuchel, or maybe even Thiago Motta, or maybe Rafa Marquez from the academy. Do you guys remember those conversations that we had? But then, right, another conversation that we had was, what about Hansi Flick? And we heard a lot of reports about Joan Laporta, saying that, I really do favor German coaches, and if it were up to me, I would either choose Tuchel, Nagelsmann, or Hansi Flick. Joan Laporta wanted Hansi Flick from the very beginning, but at that time, Hansi Flick was taking care of the German national team, so we had to wait. And Joan Laporta said, okay, look, this is my next big move. Everything that we have been doing over the past few summers, we were on point. But now this is the summer where we have to get this right. We have to bring a coach that can maximize our players. And we bring in Hansi Flick. And the rest was history. And bro, we could have easily chosen the wrong coach in that summer. We could have easily just have said Mikel from Girona, because look at what he did with that team and how ultra offensive that team was. We could have said De Zerbi because of how well he was doing with Brighton. We could have easily said Tuchel because of the recent Champions League win. We could have easily said Thiago Motta or whatever. But we chose Hansi Flick, even though he was out of football coaching for a few months. It was a gamble, in my opinion. But Joan Laporta made the correct decision, and he also brought in Deco as the sporting director, and Deco said, yes, Hansi Flick is the correct one. He's the one that can maximize the players that we have already if we cannot sign any new players going into this summer. And dude, that was probably the signing of the summer. It would no, I would say no, not F that. Hansi Flick was the signing of Joan Laporta's second presidency. It was. I know that. Look, to me, in my opinion, Xavi Hernandez was essential for that time period, and he was, I think, the second most important signing. But you know, like obviously, without Xavi, we would not get what Hansi Flick has today with FC Barcelona, right? Because Xavi Hernandez raised these youngsters and picked out these youngsters. But the most important signing that Joan Laporta had in his second presidency has to be Hansi Flick, because I can safely say to you guys that what Hansi Flick did this season is in the exact same impact that Guardiola had in 2008 and 2009. We are achieving, my friends, perfection. We are achieving perfection. What we did this season, I believe, could have never happened without Hansi Flick or Pep Guardiola. Only those two coaches could have done what we see today. Xavi could not have done this. I'm sorry, he could not have done this without, right, signing good players. Xavi needed to sign more players to get to this point, right? Because he's somebody who needs 4 to 5 years to really nurture his project, just like what he said recently, right? He said, I want to go to wherever club I go to next, I need 4 to 5 years, because he's a coach that needs time with the team, just like Arteta, another coach that needs time with his team. Hansi Flick is not one of those coaches, and Pep Guardiola is not one of those coaches. Hence the reason why I put these two coaches in the exact same category. I am happy to say, and I'm going to admit this, I put Flick next to Guardiola and Luis Enrique. I do. Because of, and regardless whether you say, no, but Kevin, Barcelona did not win the Champions League, you're wrong. How can you say this without winning the Champions League? I don't care. We were in the semifinals. We fought Inter Milan well, a very strong Inter Milan team. And most importantly, we have 3 trophies. And we played that with ultra-offensive football, just like how Hansi Flick promised. Because in May 30th, 2024, he came in and he said, I vow to play ultra-offensive but organized football. And that is what we've seen in this season. And he made a monster out of a player of Raphinha. He put Lamine Yamal into a Ballon d'Oro contender. Lewandowski is achieving the Pichichi Award. Koundé is the best right back in the world, if not the best defender in the world. Kubarsi, one of the best center backs in the world at the age of 18 years old. Alejandro Balde had one hell of a season. Kubarsi, nurtured, is going to be one of our great CDMs and is next to Bernal. Pedri, dude, Pedri is like really reaching a high level and is for sure going to become the best midfielder in the world next season under the guidance of Hansi Flick. I'm not asking you guys if I'm right. I'm saying like this is true. This is facts. What Hansi Flick has done to this Barcelona team is at Pep Guardiola level, and I think that with Hansi Flick renewing his contract until 2027 is good news. It is the good news. You know what I'm saying? It is the good news. Of for FC Barcelona within the world of football. And I think that the longer we can stick with Flick, the more successful, more trophies Barcelona will win. I believe that Flick should stay with us for the next 6 to 7 years, if that is possible. If Joan Laporta can do that. Laporta recently said, look, this sporting project and what we're doing with Barcelona has to continue, so I have to continue as president. If you want this success to continue, I have to continue. And if you want to see Barcelona continue, Hansi Flick must continue. I know that Flick says that I want to take it season by season, but I know that Flick, with the amount of energy he has and what he has been saying to the media and saying that, I'm so happy here. I enjoy being with the players because I feel like a family. It's beautiful. Flick says, I feel like it's a family here. My own family's happy at Barcelona. Hansi Flick is happy to be here more than he was happy at being at Bayern Munich, which is Germany, where he's from. So it's a blessing. And so I want that. I really want that. I want Flick to stay here for five to 6 seasons, right? Because I believe that if Joan Laporta wants to have a third presidency and can continue to even further, that's another 6 years. That's until 2033, I believe. So I believe that with Flick, he should stay with us like in the exact same way, just like Klopp did with Liverpool, just like Guardiola did with Man City, going on to like his 8th to 9th season. Flick should be like that for us, because this season that we had was just Guardiola level. We have played ultra attacking football, right? Our football is insane in terms of the amount of goals that we score. Our high line, our trapping thing, offside trap, right? I'm losing my mind. Offside trap, the high line, the ultra attacking football, the way that we speed the ball from the defense to the attack, it's phenomenal. And he did that in one season with only signing Dani Olmo and Pau Victor, which is really not a lot. It's only 2 players, and Dani Olmo was out like 60% of the time. So whether Hansi Flick signed Dani Olmo or not, this was going to happen either way. It was insane. We saw the youth surge, Yamal, Kubarsi, Casado, and I hope to see Bernal into the mix next season, but I will put Bernal in the in the youth surge because of those amazing preseason matches in the first 4 to 5 matches that we had with Bernal in this season. And so we finished off this season with winning La Liga, the Copa del Rey, beating Real Madrid 3-2, the Supercopa, and it was just one hell of a season. I'm going to miss this season, man, because I don't know if we're going to get this type of season back, you know, in terms of like coming back, you know, when we were down 2-0 against Atletico Madrid, we came back 4-2 at one point. Obviously, it ended up being 4-4, but still, in the Copa del Rey semifinal, first leg, Atletico Madrid were winning 2-0 before the 15th minute, but we came back 4-4, right? You know, I'm starting to get these things mixed up now that I'm thinking about it, but like, you know what I mean? Like, we came back against Atletico Madrid, we came back against Benfica 5-4, we came back against Celta Vigo. I believe Celta Vigo at one point were winning 2-1, but we came back 4-3. There were so many games, even against Inter Milan. I know that we eventually lost, but there were so many games where we came back and we fought back because we had perseverance, we had the aggressiveness, the intensity, the fighting spirit to succeed. And I see all these players with a lot of maturity, like Lamine Yamal. He's saying that, you know, we won these trophies, but like, we know that we can do better, and I'm not going to stop here because I'm not content. I want to win even more. And you know, we had a lot of tactical hallmarks that we could have never seen under Xavi, under Koeman, under Quique Setién, under Valverde. Like, for example, distributing the high line to 45 meters. The amount of counterattacks, which is like that Barcelona had, was like an average of like 4 to 5 counterattacks per 90 minutes. You know what I'm saying? And so, yes, we conceded a lot of goals, but I believe that is where the next step is going to be, right? Alongside with, you know, like, in terms of like financially and sportingly, right? Get into the Spotify Camp Nou as fast as possible. Lock down these big deals that Joan Laporta wants to have. Secure Barcelona financially. Let's make sure that we get into a position where we can sign players like Haaland, sign players like Florian Wirtz, compete for signings like Musiala, compete for signings like whoever's in Brazil, Argentina. We want to be the example of football in this world. Right, we want to be a reference. We want the youngsters in these academies everywhere in the world of football to be saying, I want to grow up to be like Yamal or Kubarsi or Bernal and play football like how Barcelona do. We want to be a reference to the world of football, not like what we saw in the past 7 to 8 years on how Real Madrid played their football, because there is no football there. It's just signing the best names in the world and just saying, okay, do this, long ball, done. That's it. It's just signing the best players in the world, nothing more. But this Barcelona team is a team that says we give the youth chances. We play beautiful football. We play attracting football. We play competitive football. We play football that audiences want to see on weekends, during the weekdays, and most importantly, win titles on the way. Right? It is a huge task. It's a lot to ask for any club. But the one team that can achieve that is FC Barcelona. And the one coach that can give us our best bets to lead us to that, it is Hansi Flick. Of course, Guardiola's there, whatever, Luis Enrique is there. But Hansi Flick, who is available and is the coach of Barcelona, he's the answer. Right? He's the answer. So we secure ourselves financially. We continue to get better from there. And most importantly, because of what we have seen this season sportingly in terms of our defense, we can make modifications. It's one of the conversations that I was having with some of you guys in my previous video, right? A lot of you guys were saying that, oh, how can you still continue to blame Hansi Flick and his defensive problems and stuff like that, and still saying that Xavi Hernandez was better? Look, bro, you guys have to understand one thing. When I put a certain title on my YouTube videos, it's just for a way for me to say like, hey, look at this video, right? It's just a catchy title and nothing more, right? But you guys have to like listen to what I'm actually saying, because I have never said that Xavi Hernandez, because he could see less goals, it's a better team than what Hansi Flick provided this season. I never said that, right? What I want people to understand is Hansi Flick has brought us better football compared to Xavi Hernandez. It's just insane. It is Guardiola level, but it also does not mean that we have to be what do you call, like we have to be satisfied with what we have, or complacent. That is the word I'm looking for. Complacent. We cannot be satisfied with what we have. When Guardiola, right, when he first came in 2008, 2009, and he won everything. He won 6 trophies. Did he say, okay, there's nothing to fix. We won 6 trophies. There's no reason for us to modify nothing. We don't have to improve anything. It's fine. We just replicate what we did this season in terms of the system and go into the next season. No, Guardiola did not do that. Guardiola went into the following season and he said, we have to evolve. We have to continue to modify, not change the whole system, but just make some tweaks. So we can keep the opponents guessing, on top of their toes, because eventually they were going to catch us and understand what we do. So we have to just continue to modify, improve in certain aspects, defensively, offensively, maybe in the midfield, something, right? Maybe our high line is a little too high. Maybe just put it like 3 meters a little lower, right? Maybe when we go onto the attack, Alejandro Balde does not have to go that high. Maybe sit a little bit deeper, right? Maybe we should try and train Raphinha a little bit more in terms of dribbling, not having to count on Balde so much in terms of dribbling. And maybe we can make a modification there, right? Little small modifications, right? Based off the problems that we had in our season after that season is over. And that one problem that we had in the 2024-2025 season is just defensively. It's just the fact that they found a way to find those open spaces behind our defensive line, right? So I just think that, you know, for example, when the 2 players that really do secure us in the back line when we have a high defensive line is Inigo Martinez and Cubarsí, right? When Araujo is there, he's not so great at that. What does that mean? We just need to sign a player that can give us the same level that Inigo Martinez and Cubarsí have, and have a good understanding on how to implement a high line and focus effectively, and bring a backup to that in case Inigo Martinez or Cubarsí is out. We want to be able to maintain our level of discipline in the high line when Cubarsí or Inigo Martinez are out in terms of like injuries. Which is why I say maybe bring in Ta, maybe bring in that one center back from Manchester United, right? Let's look at what type of profiles are available. Let's make some modifications, right? That is the only thing. We try to achieve the perfection. And so that is it, right? That is going to be wrapping up today's video, right? We're now finally here. We are one step closer towards achieving the perfection, winning all trophies, becoming dominant every season, not just having one great season like Chelsea, right? In 2021, right? Winning the Champions League in 2021 and then like gone the next year. We're one step closer towards achieving the world domination, and Joan Laporta brought us that. And we can only continue like this if Joan Laporta gets his 3rd presidency. So in terms of his second presidency, it's a win. It's a win, regardless of what happens in the 2025-2026 season, which will be his last season. That Joan Laporta is gonna have to carry us with, and regardless of what happens there, it does not matter. It's a win. Joan Laporta won from 1 billion in debt with no team to doing okay in finances and one hell of a team, right? The best team in the world, in my opinion. I don't care if Inter Milan win the Champions League. I don't care if PSG win the Champions League. In my opinion, Barcelona is the best team in the world. They are. And there's nothing that anybody can say that will make me change my opinion. Nothing. And we're only going to get better from here, right? It's hard for me to say that because I know that players like Dean Hussein and Frimpong, they're going to different clubs. And these are 2 players that Barcelona wanted. We're losing our choices. Tom might go to Bayern. But we'll see, right? That's going to be for a whole other different conversation. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.